Hi, this is Dan Devlin for the Detective Dan Devlin Show, Honorable People, Honorable Nation. Welcome to our program. You've heard me say it before, I hope. We can't have an honorable nation if we don't have honorable people. We're now in a segment of our programming where we're dealing with solutions. And in the news recently, you could hardly watch the news, especially the national news, without recognizing that there is a problem with men being accused of various activity involving women. I've titled this segment, The Gender Wars. And in reality, that's what we have going on here. And by the conclusion of the program, we believe that we'll have a suggestion that might make it easier for all of us to be ourselves and still accomplish the things that we want to, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the school, whether you're an older person, a younger person, whether you're in the realm of politics, government, whether it's law enforcement, firefighters, almost any situation that you're in where you're dealing with men and women, we need to address what's happening within our society. In many respects, it would be easy to joke about this topic. Men have a tendency, probably even more than women, to joke about the relationships between men and women. But the reality is, and a friend of mine pointed this out just a short time ago, that it really is a very serious topic. And so I'll try to keep from straying too much from the seriousness of this particular topic. As we know, especially in government, recently we've had, and I was going to use the term exposure, but now I'm reluctant to use that term. But we have revealed to us the behavior of men in Congress, in state legislatures, in the field of entertainment, where women have come forward and accused men of doing various things that were distasteful to them. I'm going to try to tackle this from the viewpoint of a man because I am a man. And when you live this life, it really is quite different, in spite of the fact that many women say, you're just the same as we are, and you can do anything that we can do. The reality is that we are not the same. And because we're not the same, we can't necessarily do the same things. But yet, in modern society, we have a forbidden truth that is being concealed where men cannot possibly be the winners by being truthful. And again, a friend of mine, Greg, who helps us with the show here, pointed out that, and here again, this is not being said in order to be funny, but many will chuckle when you hear it, is if a woman says, do I look fat in this dress? How can a man answer that and not suffer the consequences? The reality is, and we jokingly said, I said to Greg, well, you could pray that the dear Lord would strike you speechless at that particular point so you didn't have to say anything. So these are the types of things that men are dealing with. We've had a lot of discussion, or the nation has had a lot of discussion, on how bad men are for their behavior. You know, one congressman, I believe it was, got in a lot of trouble simply because he put his arm around a woman who was on his staff, I believe, or someone who was visiting, his office. And it appears as though there was no ill intent with that particular action, but because he didn't ask permission, he suffers the consequences as a result. And he's made to look like a bad guy. Again, we're talking about facts and reality. And I believe that most women actually do understand the problems that are being caused for men because we want them to be, and I think the term would be asexual, which would mean non-sexual. They should not see a woman as any different than any other man. It might be nice for some women to think that this would be a good thing. But for most men, it is utterly impossible for them to go around and pretend women are the same as men. We don't think alike. We don't act alike for the most part. We're physically not the same. Our strengths are different. And I've always believed that if we would use the things that are unique about us, not only as men and women, but as individuals, we're much stronger if we take the strengths of all the people that we're dealing with and use them in order to solve problems that really address all of the issues that we have with that particular event. But instead, even with religion, we tend to say, you have to believe exactly the way I do on all these issues, or you're not a good Christian, Muslim, or whatever your religion is. We think differently. We have different life experiences. And people shouldn't be pushed into thinking or acting in one direction when their beliefs are truly in another. I feel sorry for the women who are out there who are being pushed by a certain segment of the female population to be something other than a caring, thoughtful, intelligent, beautiful, dare I say it, and even sexy female. Many of the young women out there are having a problem having a serious relationship with men their own age. Is it the issue that maybe the woman has a better job than the man has? Is it, and in that regard, I might point out that we know that there has been a big push to escalate the position of women within our society. So oftentimes when a man might be very qualified for a job, it is to the benefit of the business or the government, whether it's state or federal, local, for them to hire a female as opposed to a male. I grew up in a household and in a worldview that men needed to be the head of a household, and that they had certain obligations to care about and protect women and children, and that particularly their families were the focus of why they would do many things, such as the career that they would choose, or whether it's serving in the military, or learning how to defend their family. But in modern times, we've not only said that we're equal, people from the feminist camp, and that includes some men who are pushing these things, would have us believe, and all you need to do is look at commercials on television, and you'll see that the man is often presented as the dunce, and the female has all the answers. We wonder what's happening with our young men. This is very confusing for young men. We have situations where, there's rage being expressed. We have shootings that are occurring, mostly with young men. And we ask the questions, why are these things happening? When men do not have a solid, fundamental structure that they can believe in, it makes it difficult for them to navigate through society. If they approach a particular young woman, and if they try to be kind and helpful, quite often it can be taken or expressed as being overly aggressive. And probably most women, and certainly men, know that this is a chemical, biological system that has been around as long as men and women have been in existence. And women know that oftentimes, and I would say most of the time, they're using their sexuality, their shape, their appearance, in order to do what? To attract boys or men. And yet, we ignore this fact. When you look at the situations in Congress, when you look at situations in the media, in the entertainment field, oftentimes we men are exposed to females who are overtly presenting their femininity and often doing it by showing, for lack of a better term, and I'll get in trouble no matter what I say here, but more cleavage, shorter skirts. You know where I'm going on this. And I have some images here of people who are in the news industry. They're there to talk about very serious issues, and they do talk about those issues. But do you see a man discussing these things with his shirt opened down to the mid portion of his chest? Do you see a man there with his trousers rolled up way beyond his knees? You don't see that, probably mostly because most women don't want to see that. If they did, they would probably do it. But the reality is that these women think nothing about parading around, even in a business environment, even in a governmental office where very serious things are being discussed. And here a woman is, and her blouse or her dress is cut down so low, men looking eye to eye with that female cannot help but be drawn to that intentional misdirection that the female knows is going to occur. Now, I'm a believer that men who overstep the bounds of reasonableness need to be held accountable. And certainly when there's violence or there's a specific crime that is occurring, it needs to be addressed. But so much of this today is on the fringe, where men can't even approach a woman and try to be a normal guy and engage in the activity that might lead them to some romantic involvement and perhaps marriage and children. And so we know, and it would be an interesting research project to find out how many of the women, and we've heard from some of them, that feel terrible that they have concentrated on their careers and they have put a relationship aside or been involved in a few or several in a non-serious relationship because they wanted to get ahead, only to find out that now they can either no longer have children, or they have fewer children, or they've given up some of the best years of their life that they could have done what is the fundamental purpose of female human beings on this planet. That's to bear and love and to take care of new human beings that hopefully we call our family. But it's actually worse than that, because we actually have females who will outright lie about their involvement with particular men. Many of you know that a large portion of my background is in law enforcement, and I remember one individual in particular in the state of Arizona where a woman accused a man of rape. She was bruised, cut, scratched, and it appears as though she was assaulted and left out in the desert. And she contacted some people as she got out of that area, and she came to the police department and reported it. And most of the officers there felt as though it was a good charge, and they were ready to go out and arrest the individual who she knew. But there seemed to be something wrong with her story. It seemed to change a little bit. And when she was challenged on that, I felt as though there was more to it than what she was saying. And sure enough, she admitted that in reality it hadn't happened. And her reason for accusing this individual was that he had turned her down for a continued relationship, and she wanted to get back at him, and therefore she felt as though this was a good way to do it. Had I not pursued that, other officers would have made the arrest, and very likely there would have been a conviction. But she was glad that she actually told the truth about it, and she felt better about it and understood things a little bit better. As a result, we didn't file a complaint against her for wrongfully accusing this individual, which we could have done. And I don't know whether their relationship continued or not, but I can tell you that an innocent person did not serve many years in prison or any time, was not arrested, because the truth actually came out. Now, there are a number of times when these things occur. In many domestic violence situations, we've had women screaming and hollering, saying that they were beaten or abused in various ways. Now we have marital rape that, can actually be criminal in nature, where that was never the case before. Should men be forcing themselves upon females ever? I suppose that's another question. In a marriage relationship, we all know, those of us who are married, we know that they're complicated. And I don't believe that men should be beating certainly their wives. But the reality is that there are some times when women are out of control and need to physically, even physically, be put in their place. In one incident in particular that I'm aware of, when a woman was drinking, she was angry, wanted to go out and get in a car and, drive off. And the husband in that situation would not allow it. Had to physically push her down and prevent her from leaving, because no innocent person deserves to be in a wheelchair or die or have their children die because someone, male or female, decides that they're going to go and drive in a condition where they're not able to drive properly. So, you may have noticed I presented and will present some photos of some of the news people who are engaged in a very serious business of bringing you the news. But yet, even when the issue is how women are being wrongfully touched or approached in a way or have something said to them that's suggestive, even though they're discussing these things, the women are exposing various portions of their body in a way that any man watching cannot help but notice how she is trying to use her feminine body in order to get the attention of men who are watching. What are we going to do about all this? One, I think we need to understand, and women need to understand. Men already understand it. They don't talk about it because who's going to listen? Women don't want to hear it. But the reality is that we need to have women understand, and many good, decent women who are impartial will understand, that men are in an unwinnable situation. If they approach a woman and they want to pursue some kind of relationship, even ask her to go out for the evening, they have to be so careful about how it's said. And certainly, and as Greg pointed out, a woman who is sorrowful about something or she's having a bad time, it used to be that you could put your arm around her and you could try to comfort her. You can't do like you would on a man and say, pat him on the back and say, hey, don't worry, it'll be all right, and then both of you go about your business. It doesn't work the same way. But yet, if you show compassion, and we have examples of it, all of a sudden, you're being accused of taking advantage of the situation. Now, I'm not talking about the overt actions that are absolutely wrong on the part of men who are overstepping the bounds of reasonableness, and most people would understand that. And if they're criminal charges, then fine, charge them criminally. But don't cause someone to lose a career, which has happened, because he may have said something improper. He may have joked in a way that a woman takes it differently than a man would. So, this whole program, at least these several segments that we've done in recent times, is about solutions. And what is the solution to this problem? It's to understand that we are not the same, that we don't have the same physical characteristics. We were made to be interested in each other. men and women to see where that relationship would go. And so, treat people the way you want to be treated with the solution that I suggest, which is utter respect for the people that you're dealing with, men or women. But when you treat them with respect, understand this dynamic of the male-female relationship is not a bad one. And for the advancement of our population and a wholesome family relationship, we need to step back, and women in particular need to say, we understand how men are, and we may not see it the same way, and as long as there's no major violation, let it be. This is Dan Devlin for the Detective Dan Devlin Show. Honorable people, honorable nation, and I'm encouraging you all and women out there, take responsibility for the actions you're provoking on the part of men. I trust that you'll wrestle with this, and if we treat each other with respect, we don't lure men into doing something that they later are accused of doing something that they shouldn't have done. That is about respect. And I want the men to have that kind of respect as well. God bless you all. I hope you have a great day. And let's change from the gender wars to just having us care and be respectful of each other. Have a great day.